Lying before us and in cemeteries throughout this nation are men and women who gave their lives so that we can live in freedom and without fear. We worship as we see fit. We can raise our children to believe as we do. We can travel from one end of this great nation to the other and not have to ask permission to go. We are free to vote for whomever we feel should be in government office with no explanation needed. We have the right to succeed and we have the right to fail at whatever endeavor we wish to pursue. The United States of America was founded on the ideals of freedom, justice, and equality. Our nation stands as a shining beacon of liberty and freedom to the world. We thank those who gave their lives to make us free, and we shall not forget you. We will remember. Today, many of you here are veterans of wars and conflicts that America had to fight in order to protect the innocent and the oppressed. This nation has always been the first to stand up for the freedom of its people around the world. Many of you here today have answered the call and served your country. We are here to say thank you to all of you, and we are honored to know you. There are many men and women serving today in all branches of the military, here at home and in places far away that most of us have never heard of. These men and women are part of the best trained, best equipped force in the world. We honor them and their families for the sacrifices they make each day to keep our country safe from terrorism, hatred, and injustice. When you see a veteran on active duty, member of the armed services, take a moment to say thank you. We owe them our way of life. And a moment of your time is well spent. Quoting our 40th United States President, Ronald Reagan, quote, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on to them to do the same. Or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States where men were free," end quote. Today we show a united front of gratitude and respect across the United States of America as we remember the fallen, honor those who serve, and teach our children the value of freedom.
Here today as an American, as a veteran, and now as a public servant. It is important to remember and recognize our warriors past and present for the service to their country. I myself am the second in 3 generations of military service. My father served in Europe shortly after World War II. I served in Europe as well, and I'm a veteran of the Gulf War, the first Desert Storm. My son has just started his military service and is in the middle of basic training in Fort Jackson, South Carolina. I spoke to him last week, and he seems to be doing well, and he can read from the script that they give him on how well he's doing pretty good. So I'm pleased with that. So he doesn't deviate from, "Mom, Dad, I'm doing great, having a great time at summer camp, wish you were here." I don't believe him one bit. We're anxious to see him come home next week, getting a little break for the holidays, and then going back to finish his basic training, his AIT, and then for his first deployment. I'll tell you that the holidays are one of the toughest times for troops and their families. Having spent many holidays deployed, it can be a very lonely time. Events like these here today are important to refresh our spirit and to do what we can to recognize support for both the troops and their families. As hard as it is on the troops overseas, it's equally as hard on the moms and the dads and the brothers and the sisters to be here worrying about them, not knowing what they're actually doing, and caring for their safety. So think of the troops, but also think of the families, and when the opportunity presents itself, add a little encouragement for those families that actually have a son or daughter, a father, a wife, a spouse that's deployed. So it's been nearly 20 years since 9/11. And our military forces have been continuously deployed and engaged in combat operations that entire time. It's the longest in our history. I know how time flies, but when you think about it, that's a long time. Many have served, many have been injured, and far too many have made the ultimate sacrifice. In 1982, I entered West Point as a very naive but ambitious young man. My desire was to serve my country, to get a good education, and play football for Army. Beat Navy. Oh, we already did that. Right. Well, beat Air Force this afternoon at 2 o'clock. And we'll see how that goes, playing for the Commander-in-Chief's trophy this afternoon. So I'll leave that out there. I actually had the opportunity to play in 4. Didn't do particularly well, was 1 and 3, but we're getting our revenge now. So on the very first day of Beast Barracks, which is cadet basic training, I came into my room and for the first time found a number of things on my bunk. A very weak pillow, a gray wool blanket, 2 sheets, and a small book called Bugle Notes. I still have it here. It's a little bit worn and a little bit out of date, but some of the contents are still applicable. It contains everything you need to know as a cadet. History, how to be a good cadet, and eventually how to be a good officer. During your first year, we were expected to memorize much of the book and to be able to recite the contents on command. At 17, I was pretty good at that. At 57, I could never do it again. My memory is not that good. So there's one passage that I feel is appropriate for today, and I'd like to read it to you. It comes from General Douglas MacArthur's speech to the Corps cadets shortly before his death. It reads, "Duty, honor, country. Those 3 hallowed words reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, what you will be. They are your rallying points to build courage when courage seems to fail, to regain faith when there seems to be little cause for faith, and to create hope when hope becomes forlorn. They build your basic character. They mold you for the future roles as custodians of the nature's defense. They make you strong enough to know when you are weak and brave enough to face yourself when you're afraid. They teach you to be proud and unbending in honest failure, but humble and gentle in your success. Not to substitute words for actions, not to seek the path of comfort, but to face the stress and spur of difficulty and challenge. To learn to stand up in the storm, but to have compassion on those who fail. To master yourself before you seek to master others. To have a heart that is clean, a goal that is high. To learn to laugh, yet never forget how to weep. To reach into the future, yet never neglect the past." So, I was once able to recite that. I cheated today, and let me read it. I appreciate that. So once again, I thank you for allowing me to be part of this ceremony. May God bless you with a joyous holiday. Be well. Thank you very much.